1. Daring Heights. Margaret Bourke-White on the Chrysler Building, 1930, New York, USA. In this breathtaking photo, renowned American photographer Margaret Bourke-White sits casually atop one of the gargoyles of the Chrysler Building, high above the streets of New York City. Captured by Oscar Grobner in 1930, this image symbolizes the boldness of a woman who shattered barriers, becoming the first American female war photojournalist. Her work covered everything from the Great Depression to World War II, cementing her legacy as a trailblazer in photography. 2. Defending Against Nature. A Canadian police officer guarding a pharmacy, 1974, Ontario, Canada. During a devastating flood in Galt, Ontario, in 1974, a Canadian police officer stood guard outside a pharmacy, ensuring order amid the chaos. Natural disasters often bring out the best and worst in people, and this officer's unwavering stance reflects the quiet heroism of first responders in times of crisis. 3. The man behind the iconic lunch atop a skyscraper photo, 1932, New York, USA. This image captures Charles C. Ebbets, the man responsible for one of the most famous photographs in history, lunch atop a skyscraper. The 1932 photo of construction workers casually eating lunch while perched on a steel beam high above New York City remains a symbol of resilience and hard work. However, Ebbets wasn't officially credited for his masterpiece until 2003, nearly 70 years later. 4. A Pigeon's Mission. World War I Battlefield Communications, 1918, France. Long before radios and satellites, armies relied on carrier pigeons for battlefield communication. This rare World War I photo shows a British Mark V tank releasing a message-carrying pigeon through a small porthole near Albert, France, in 1918. These birds were an essential part of wartime strategy, often delivering messages that saved countless lives. 5. Etude King. Frederik IX of Denmark, 1951, Denmark. Unlike most royals of his time, King Frederik IX of Denmark embraced a rugged and unconventional image. This rare photo, leaked to Life magazine in 1951, shows him proudly displaying his tattooed upper body. A passionate sailor and bodybuilder, Frederik IX defied expectations and led Denmark with a unique blend of toughness and warmth. 6. The 3,000 builders of the Chase Manhattan Bank Tower, 1964, New York City, USA. As construction neared completion on the 810-foot Chase Manhattan Bank Tower, the 3,000 workers who built it gathered for an unforgettable photo in August 1964. These men risked their lives daily to shape the skyline of New York, leaving behind a legacy of engineering and perseverance. 7. A Soldier's Lifesaver. The helmet that took a bullet in 1969, Vietnam War. This chilling photo from the Vietnam War captures an American soldier holding the helmet that saved his life. The dent from an enemy bullet serves as a powerful reminder of the thin line between life and death on the battlefield. 8. The record-breaking Black Sea Base, 1901, California, USA. In 1901, Mrs. A.W. Barrett made history by catching a 416-pound, 188 kilograms, Black Sea Bass off Santa Catalina Island. Measuring 7 feet 10 inches, 2.3 meters in length, this monstrous fish remains one of the most impressive catches ever recorded, proving that fishing records weren't just made by men. 9. Soviet Spectacle. Rehearsals for the 1980 Moscow Olympics, 1980 USSR. This striking image captures Soviet dancers and gymnasts in rehearsal for the opening ceremonies of the 1980 Moscow Olympics. Amid Cold War tensions, the USSR sought to showcase its artistic and athletic dominance, delivering a visually stunning, propaganda-fueled spectacle to the world. 10. The Panama Slide, Coney Island's Thrill Ride, circa 1908, New York, USA. Long before modern roller coasters, Coney Island's Panama Slide was one of the most thrilling attractions at Steeplechase Park. Built around 1908, this massive slide gave adrenaline seekers a taste of excitement in the early days of amusement parks. 11. A Time Before Bridges, horse-drawn ferry on the Cowlitz River, 1860 to 1920, Washington, USA. This fascinating photo shows a ferry boat carrying horses and a wagon laden with hay across the Cowlitz River in Washington sometime between 1860 and 1920, before modern bridges. Ferries like this were essential for transportation, connecting isolated rural communities. 12. Jaws, 1975, the shark that almost ruined the film. While filming Jaws in 1975, director Steven Spielberg originally planned to feature the giant mechanical shark much more frequently. However, the shark model kept malfunctioning, forcing Spielberg to rethink his approach. Instead of showing the shark outright, he used suspenseful music and ominous shadows to suggest its presence. This unplanned change turned Jaws into a masterpiece of psychological horror, proving that sometimes what you don't see is scarier than what you do. 13. Armored cars on the Texas border, 1918, South Texas, USA. In 1918, the South Texas border was a tense and militarized zone due to conflicts from the Mexican Revolution and cross-border raids. The U.S. Army and Texas Rangers deployed armored cars, which were often modified civilian vehicles with steel plating and mounted weapons, to patrol the region and maintain security during one of the most volatile periods in U.S.-Mexico relations. 14. Annie Wilkens, the woman who rode across America, 1954, USA. In 1954, 63-year-old Maine farmer Annie Wilkens made an extraordinary decision. With no money, no family, and a grim diagnosis that gave her only 2 years to live, she refused to accept her fate. Instead of moving into a charity home as advised, Annie bought a cast-off brown gelding named Tarzan, put on men's dungarees, and set off on a cross-country journey to see the Pacific Ocean before she died. With only her ex-racehorse, a faithful mutt, and a belief in the kindness of strangers, Annie traveled thousands of miles across the U.S. against all odds. Her incredible journey remains one of the most inspiring and daring solo adventures of the 20th century.